There's a reason most truckers don't stop for hitchhikers, by ACWhi. You know how in college, or when you're just dirt poor, you come to enjoy certain foods? Like ramen, microwave burritos, cheap frozen pizza, that stuff. I figure it's the same principle with long-haul truck drivers and truck stops. I'd only been on the road for 2 years before, and I'd only be on it for another 3 after this. But I'd already grown a taste for greasy sausages and bad coffee. This time I couldn't enjoy the crappy meal on account of the man sitting 2 booths over. His appearance and clothes were normal enough, but a bit underdressed for the Colorado winter. I think that it was the way that he stared, scanning the room like the Terminator. That creeped me out. And all he had in front of him was an untouched cup of decaf coffee. I usually savor these little breaks, but this time I hurried to finish. Partly to beat the weather and partly to get out from under those eyes. Before the waitress came with my check, the man took a seat in the booth across from me without asking. "Are you a trucker?" he said. He had one of those accents that's kind of impossible to place. "Yeah," I said. "Would you allow me to ride with you?" he said with an off-putting smile. "What, to anywhere? You some sort of drifter?" I asked him. "I have been for some time, but I'm heading home now. I haven't been home in so long," he said. "You don't even know where I'm going," I told him. He blinked at that. It was the first time I'd seen the gesture from him. Then his smile widened. "Oh, going over Vale Pass?" Yeah," I said, "to Junction." "And then?" "Well, I'm going to Salt Lake." I knew that this wasn't the 60s and big rigs weren't held up by the mob anymore. Even still, I figured if he asked where I was headed next, I'd lie. "Well then, you're definitely going where I need to go. I'd very much appreciate a lift." Well, I'd like to help," I said, but that was a lie. "But I'm not really supposed to pick up hitchhikers. It's a company vehicle, you see." Now, I'm not sure how long the waitress had been there, but she'd been there long enough, I suppose. 'Cause she leaned in and whispered, "Please take him out of here. I'll comp your meal, but he's been here all day, eyeing me funny. Please." I've never learned how to say no to women, so I sighed and told the stranger to follow me. "What's your name?" I asked as he took a seat. He shifted his weight and said, "We don't need to know each other's names." Then he added, "Call me whatever you'd like." "That's fine by me," I said, not curious a whit about his name or his story. I eyed a piece of jerky on the dash and said, "How about Jim?" "If you'd like," he said. "Sorry," I said after a few chilly minutes of uncomfortable silence. "The heater doesn't work all that great." "Ah, well, it's nice to get home," he said. "It's so much warmer than here." About that time, the snow started coming down really thick, and I cut my speed in half. Another rig, with thick chains on the tires, was tearing down the mountain, clearly none too happy to be stuck behind me. I took the next pull-off and the driver flashed his hazards in thanks. "What are we doing?" Jim asked, after the familiar hiss of the air brakes quieted. "I'm checking the weather report," I said. "Strapping up the wheels, maybe." Jim said, his smile gone and brow creased. And then he nodded. "All right, I suppose that'll be fine." I hadn't asked his opinion, but whatever. My phone was lucky to get any service, but I got my answers. Snow was expected to come in waves for several more hours. On this mountain, weather like that had been the end of more than one long hauler. I wasn't desperate enough for cash to risk it. "I hate to do this to you, Jim," I said, sincerely. 4 or 5 hours parked with my new friend didn't sound like fun. But I said, I think we're stuck here. Well, we don't look stuck, Jim said. No, I just mean that it wouldn't be safe to keep driving, that's all, I replied. Well, let's see, I'll help you. Put the chains on, Jim said. His smile was now back on his face. Nah man, sorry. I don't push it going downhill on a snowy mountain. But I need to get home, Jim replied. Look, it's just a few hours more, I said. He shook his head. The empty smile once again vanished. No, you don't understand. If we don't go now, I won't make it home until who knows when. It's a place, man, I said. It isn't going anywhere. Jim paused and said, Yes, it isn't going anywhere. So, at least we agreed on that. His eyes followed a van with a driver apparently braver than myself. You wishing you'd hitched a ride with him? I asked him. And then he squinted, almost like he was trying to read the license plate. No, they aren't going where I'm going. That's too bad then, but I'll still be headed towards your home after the weather clears, I said. No, you won't. I shivered, and I don't think that it was the cold. Don't you have a job to do? Jim said. I started to get angry then, or maybe it was that I was afraid, but I was shaking either way. Look, I can handle my own business, Jim. Nothing in this trailer is perishable. If I'm a little late, then I'm a little late, I said. No, he shouted, and I swear, for a moment his face barely looked human. I insist that you drive now. He was like a small child throwing a temper tantrum. All right, that's enough, I said, hand ready to dart for the glove box where I kept my Magnum. But I swear, Jim's eyes bore right through the plastic, and he knew that I was packing. Okay. My voice cracked a bit. I don't like doing this, but you're freaking me out. I need you to leave. Now, I said. My eyes didn't leave my passengers. My right hand was still ready to grab the gun. I used my left to fish around for a bag, a bottle of water, my spare coat, and maybe a few sticks of beef jerky. I tossed all of it onto Jim's lap. The diner's only a couple of miles back. Just stay off the shoulder and you'll be fine, I said. He just stared at me, motionless. I almost wished that he would just explode again. Look, dude, I said, this is my truck. I'm telling you to leave. I won't need these, he said, dropping the coat and bag, but taking the jerky from my dash. He didn't seem angry anymore. Sad, maybe. And then he hopped out. Wait, it's 10 degrees, I yelled. Grabbing the gun and the coat, I darted outside, wincing at the wind. There was no sign of Jim, and his tracks stopped just after about 10 feet or so. I considered calling out, but I guess I was too relieved. Maybe that makes me a bad person. I don't know. But I got back into the cab, locked both doors, and I kept my revolver handy. And I didn't sleep a wink until Grand Junction about 10 hours later. Now, I'm sure he was just some lunatic that I picked up at a diner. I know that. But sometimes, on snowy nights, I can't help but wonder. Yeah, sometimes I wonder.